The former Prime Minister Gordon Brown wants the government to delay the formal process of leaving the EU by a year to hold citizens' assemblies to break the political impasse over Brexit. A similar assembly in the Republic recently tackled the thorny issue of abortion, and of course that helped lead to the change in the Irish Constitution. Here in Northern Ireland, a citizens' assembly is currently considering adult social care. Paul Braithwaite is from the Community Foundation, which funds the forum here. Paul, a very good morning to you. Now, we've had sort of what you might say is the ultimate citizens' assembly. It was called a referendum on Brexit. Why should we entrust these big decisions to, don't take this personally, but, an unelected, unrepresentative body of amateurs?
Well, I suppose the Citizens Assembly comes from a similar place as a referendum, in the sense that it comes from the principle that people deserve to be given a say over the big decisions that affect them. But it's just a different kind of a method. So a Citizens Assembly is a representative group of the general public. So you choose the members of the Citizens Assembly so that they...
Who chooses them?
Well, often it can be an independent polling firm or a market research firm. And the idea is that you usually would have about anywhere between 50 and 250 people, and their characteristics in terms of age, gender, socioeconomic background, and other characteristics which vary from case to case, would be reflective of the wider population. So you'd have the same age profile, the same socioeconomic profile, and so on. And that's why citizens' assemblies are often referred to as a mini public. The idea is basically, if you could get the whole population of a place into a room and give them all of the detailed and balanced information about a topic, and you gave them a chance to deliberate with one another, consider it over a period of time and make recommendations, then if you're doing that with a miniature version of that who have the same characteristics, then your inference is that that's what the whole public would decide.
Is that not what opinion polls do, though?
Well, opinion polls gauge, I guess, a kind of a snapshot of public opinion, and the difference with a Citizens' Assembly is it's the depth and detail that people go into. When you're asked a question in an opinion poll, you're not asked to talk to anybody else about it. You're not asked to engage with people who disagree with you. That's one of the key things. And you're also not given documents and information to read in advance. A Citizens' Assembly is where people are there's a level playing field in terms of the information and evidence that's given to people. People would be given briefing papers. So we were involved in funding and organising a Citizens' Assembly here in Northern Ireland over the last number of months on the issue of adult social care. And all of the members of that assembly were given access to expertise and to research around the issue of social care. They were able to hear from lobby groups coming from different perspectives, persons who use social care services and so on, and they all had access to that same information before they eventually formulated a series of recommendations.
How does it differ, Paul, from the Civic Forum, which was set up under the Good Friday Agreement and kind of fizzled out without a whimper? Yeah,
well, again, a Citizens' Assembly, there's a couple of differences. The main one being the membership of the Citizens' Assembly would be different from the Civic Forum. The Civic Forum essentially comprised representatives of civil society, of major organisations, whether voluntary or charitable organisations, trade unions, business representative organisations, and so on. Whereas the Citizens' Assembly is ordinary members of the public chosen at random. The closest comparison really what we have currently is jury service. There's something that's totally institutionalised and accepted in the way we run the state. Where ordinary people are given a very big decision, a very big responsibility. It's run in a not dissimilar way. They're presented with the evidence. They're given the opportunity to deliberate. It's carefully facilitated, and so on. So I think if we trust ordinary people to make big decisions around criminal justice, then why not trust ordinary people to make decisions around policy and legislation?
And is the idea that the Citizens' Assembly then advises politicians, or does it seek to change the mind or influence the minds of the public at large?
Well, it depends in each case, but a Citizens' Assembly is advisory. There haven't been any examples in the world so far where a Citizens' Assembly would directly take a decision. So it'd usually be commissioned by government or Parliament. The one we've been involved in organising has been independent of government. But in many cases, it's, for example, the case of the Irish Citizens' Assembly, that was commissioned by the Irish government with the approval of the Irish Parliament. So it would then make recommendations back to Parliament or to government, and they would decide whether to follow through on the results. But obviously, having commissioned the Citizens' Assembly in the first place, there does tend to be a dynamic and an imperative on them to take seriously what members of the public have said.
Are you sure you want to take on Brexit?
Well, I'm not involved in the conversations around a Citizens Assembly on Brexit. We've started with social care, which is a complex issue, one that deserves serious attention in Northern Ireland, one that's been much neglected. And the Citizens Assembly met over 2 weekends in October and November and came up with 3 high-level resolutions and 25 recommendations. I know we don't have time to go through those in great detail now, but there is a website where all that can be found at citizensassemblyni.org. But yes, in terms of Brexit, in principle, a Citizens Assembly could be a really useful mechanism to help us out of the impasse. In practice, a few things need to be in place, and it depends in what way it's organised. It would need to be given enough time. It would need to have a very clear question that's put together. It would need to have cross-party backing. It would need to be commissioned by Parliament, for example. So if with those things in place, if those things could be put in place, then absolutely there's no reason why a Citizens Assembly couldn't help us out.
Paul Braithwaite from the Community Foundation, thank you.